if you create an equinoctial marker in the time of Khafre, 4,500 years ago, and the Sphinx is an equinoctial marker. I mean, it's 270 feet long and 70 feet high, and it's looking directly at the rising sun on the equinox. That they are referred to in the Edfu building text as seven sages, because that repeats again and again. It's also in Mesopotamia.
What if everything we thought we knew about human history was wrong? What if the ancient world was once ruled by a global civilization far more advanced than we can imagine, only to be wiped from existence by a catastrophic event and buried beneath time? From massive stones moved without machines to sacred geometries encoded across continents, the clues are everywhere, and they're no longer easy to ignore. Forget what you learned in school. We're about to uncover the evidence archaeologists don't want to explain, and scientists are just beginning to rediscover. Stonehenge, the Great Sphinx, Japan's underwater pyramids. They were never supposed to survive, but they did, and now they're telling a story we were never meant to hear. This isn't conspiracy, this is fact-based mystery, and the puzzle pieces are finally coming together. Welcome to the real history of humanity, one they tried to hide. Stonehenge was never just a monument, it was a message. It's easy to look at Stonehenge and see it as a pile of ancient rocks. Tourists flock there every year, snapping photos and then moving on. But what if this iconic structure was never meant to be understood by the casual observer? What if it wasn't just a monument, but a message? Recent geochemical studies published in Nature shattered what we thought we knew. The altar stone at the center of Stonehenge, once believed to come from nearby Wales, has now been traced over 470 miles away to northeast Scotland. That's more than 750 kilometers. And remember, this was 5,000 years ago. No roads, no wheels, no ships, nothing that should have made this possible. So how did they do it? Mainstream archaeologists call it difficult long-distance transport. That's putting it lightly. This would have required precise logistics, coordination between tribes, knowledge of geography, and likely advanced tools or technology that we still don't understand. Even if we accept that they moved it using brute force, the why still remains. Why this specific stone from that distant location? Why such massive effort to place it perfectly in the heart of Stonehenge? And then there's the layout. Stonehenge aligns with the sun on solstices, but that's just the beginning. When compared to other megalithic sites globally, similar precision, similar materials, and astronomical alignment patterns begin to emerge, almost as if it were part of a larger system spread across continents. This isn't a coincidence, it's a pattern, one that's forcing even the most skeptical scholars to ask, was Stonehenge part of a forgotten blueprint? A trace of an older world erased by time? The Sphinx is older than Egypt, and that changes everything. The Great Sphinx has always been a mystery, half lion, half human, its gaze locked toward the horizon. It's one of the oldest and largest monolithic statues on Earth, but recent evidence suggests it's even older than we thought. Much older. Geologist Robert Schoch and others have documented water erosion on the body of the Sphinx, erosion patterns that could only have been caused by thousands of years of heavy rainfall. That would place the statue's origins not in 2500 BC, when Pharaoh Khafre supposedly built it, but as far back as 10,500 BC. Here's the problem. Egypt hasn't seen that kind of rainfall since the end of the last ice age. Mainstream Egyptologists pushed back. But then in the late 80s and early 90s, seismic surveys, conducted first by a Japanese team and later by American researchers, found anomalous chambers and tunnels beneath the Sphinx. One of these cavities sits directly beneath the statue's paws. And guess what? It's never been excavated. Some believe these could be the fabled Halls of Records, a library sealed off before a cataclysm, preserving knowledge of a lost civilization. It may sound wild, but we already have modern scanning data proving these chambers exist. And if the Sphinx is truly over 12,000 years old, that would place it alongside the rise of other megalithic sites across the world, suggesting they may not be isolated marvels, but interconnected clues. The narrative that ancient Egyptians built everything from scratch, it's starting to crumble. If someone else carved the Sphinx before the pharaohs ever ruled, then who were they? The sunken temples of Japan, proof beneath the sea. In 1986, off the coast of Yonaguni Island, Japan, a diving instructor discovered what looked like a staircase beneath the sea. But it wasn't just a staircase. It was an entire sunken monument, made of right angles, terraces, platforms, and what appear to be man-made steps and walls. Welcome to the Yonaguni Monument, a structure some geologists say could be over 10,000 years old, submerged after the last ice age when sea levels rose dramatically. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura has spent over a decade studying Yonaguni. He argues that the site shows clear signs of human modification: tool marks, deliberate carvings, and even a stone tablet with symbols. Others believe it's all natural erosion, but even they admit the formations would have been above water only before 8000 BC. So whether the structure was carved by humans or enhanced by them, it existed in a time long before modern civilization. Here's what makes Yonaguni so compelling. It's not alone. Similar underwater structures have been discovered off India, the Bahamas, and the Mediterranean. All suggest that ancient human populations were far more advanced and far more global than we ever imagined. And if these structures were submerged by melting ice caps, that places them directly at the end of the last ice age. Coincidence? Or were these the coastal cities of a once thriving antediluvian world? The ocean has hidden them for millennia, but technology is finally catching up, and the truth is starting to rise to the surface. The ancient network hidden in plain sight. What if all these mysterious monuments, from Stonehenge to the Sphinx to Yonaguni, weren't just isolated wonders? What if they were pieces of a massive, ancient global network, deliberately positioned across the Earth? Researchers have begun to notice eerie alignments. When plotted on a globe using spherical geometry, many of the world's most iconic megalithic sites form geometric patterns, equilateral triangles, great circle roots, and even pentagonal alignments. Sites like the Great Pyramid, Easter Island, and Machu Picchu aren't just spaced randomly. They fall along precise distances and directions. Coincidence? That's getting harder to believe. Add to this the work of Nikola Tesla, who discovered Earth's natural resonant frequencies, electrical energy that pulses invisibly across the planet. Tesla believed the Earth functioned like a massive conductor, capable of transmitting power without wires. Guess what? Modern science has confirmed this through what we now call Schumann resonances. Now here's where things get really wild. Many ancient sites, especially those built with quartz-rich stones like granite, sit directly on these energy hotspots. And not only that, but some of these monuments show electromagnetic anomalies even today. At Stonehenge, magnetic irregularities have been recorded. In chambers of the Great Pyramid, frequencies behave in bizarre ways that defy standard physics. So the question is, did the ancients know something we've only recently begun to rediscover? Were they tapping into Earth's natural energy grid, using it to amplify sound, connect across vast distances, or even power unknown technologies? Some experts believe so. And the consistent use of quartz-bearing materials, acoustic engineering, and precise celestial alignments suggests this wasn't trial and error. It was intentional. In other words, the ancients weren't just building temples. They were building machines, planetary instruments embedded with cosmic knowledge, designed to last forever, and maybe, just maybe, to one day be found again by us. Echoes in the stones, sound, frequency, and ancient technology. What if ancient structures weren't just built to be seen, but to be heard? All across the world, researchers are discovering something remarkable. Many megalithic sites have been acoustically engineered. That's right, these ancient builders understood sound on a level that modern science is only now beginning to catch up with. Take the Hippodrome of Malta, for instance. This 6,000-year-old subterranean temple has a specific chamber, called the Oracle Room, where certain sound frequencies resonate throughout the entire complex. In fact, the room naturally amplifies tones at exactly 111 Hz, a frequency shown to influence brain activity, even inducing trance-like states. Coincidence? Hardly. At Newgrange in Ireland, similar acoustic patterns emerge. Mayan pyramids in Central America echo chirps and tones that mimic natural bird calls. And deep within the pyramids of Egypt, researchers have recorded standing wave phenomena that concentrate sound in specific chambers. These aren't accidents. The ancients were experimenting with frequency, resonance, and vibration, possibly for ritual, healing, or even communication. In fact, acoustic engineers have theorized that some of these structures may have been used to alter consciousness, like tuning forks for the human soul. Why does this matter? Because it suggests an advanced understanding of physics and material science, long before such concepts even existed on paper. They knew how to use sound to shape space, energy, and perhaps even human perception. And that brings us back to a bigger question. Were these structures meant to do something? Activate something? If we think of them as more than temples, more like multi-sensory instruments designed to interact with humans and Earth itself, the whole puzzle begins to shift. The ancients weren't just builders. They were engineers of energy, sound, and space, and every stone still echoes with their message. Ancient eyes on the sky, the astronomical blueprints. One of the most mind-blowing aspects of ancient architecture, its mathematical obsession with the heavens, across continents, across cultures, across oceans. Megalithic structures align with the sun, the moon, the stars, and even planetary cycles that take thousands of years to complete. At the Callanish Stone Circle in Scotland, researchers discovered a cruciform arrangement of stones that tracks the 18.6-year lunar standstill cycle, an astronomical pattern so complex, most modern people have never even heard of it. Then there's Stonehenge. In the 1960s, astronomer Gerald Hawkins ran computer simulations and found 24 astronomical alignments in the structure, perfectly tracking eclipses, solstices, and moon cycles. The odds of these alignments happening by accident? Literally astronomical, he wrote in Nature. In Mexico, Teotihuacan's Pyramid of the Sun aligns with the Pleiades star cluster. Angkor Wat in Cambodia tracks the movement of Draco. And Egypt's pyramids, as proposed by Robert Bauval, mirror the stars of Orion's belt, with recent statistical studies supporting the idea that it's not random at all. But here's the kicker. Many of these alignments correspond to events like the precession of the equinoxes, a 26,000-year wobble in Earth's axis that was supposedly discovered by Greek astronomers just 2,000 years ago. So how did ancient people, thousands of years earlier, build structures to align with these same celestial events? That kind of knowledge requires generational observation, mathematical understanding, and societal stability. Or it requires them to have inherited it from someone else. Someone who had already mapped the sky for centuries. Someone who didn't just watch the stars, but encoded their knowledge into monuments that would outlast empires. These were not random farmers with good eyesight. They were sky mapping engineers, building in stone what NASA does today with satellites. And if their blueprints were based on an older civilization's maps, the story of humanity is about to get a whole lot older. The Great Flood and the giants who came before. We've heard it in every culture, from the Bible to the Epic of Gilgamesh to Native American lore. A great flood once wiped out a powerful civilization. And just before that flood, there were giants, men of renown, who walked the earth. Sounds like myth, right? But what if there's a deeper truth behind the stories? The Sumerian king list, one of the oldest written records on Earth, claims that before the flood, kings ruled for tens of thousands of years. One ruled for 28,800 years, another 36,000. And then, just like that, the flood swept over the land. Meanwhile, the Bible talks about the Nephilim, mighty beings who lived before and after the flood, builders of massive works. In Central America, Aztec legends describe a race of giants who constructed ancient cities. Even isolated island cultures speak of long-lived ancestors who vanished after a global catastrophe. But here's where it gets scientific. Dr. John Sanford, a respected geneticist, introduced the theory of genetic entropy, that the human genome is not evolving, but degrading over time due to mutation accumulation. In theory, early humans could have lived significantly longer lifespans, possibly even centuries. Now imagine what one human could achieve with 900 years of life, decades to master astronomy, a century to develop engineering, lifetimes to construct monuments and track celestial movements. If true, this would explain how ancient cultures preserved advanced knowledge without writing. The knowledge keepers lived long enough to pass it down in person, generation after generation. So when legends speak of ancient builders, wise, powerful, long-lived, they may not be exaggerating. They might be remembering. Not gods, not aliens, just an advanced, forgotten branch of humanity erased by the flood and buried under layers of time. And the monuments? They're the last whispers of that world. Impossible stones and the engineering we can't explain. Let's get real. We can't even move some of these ancient stones today, not without cranes, trucks, and millions of dollars. So how did ancient people, without wheels, pulleys, or even iron tools, move blocks weighing 800 plus tons? At Baalbek, Lebanon, the famed trilithon stones each weigh as much as a Boeing 747. And they weren't just moved, they were stacked with precision. In Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman features polygonal stones weighing up to 200 tons, fit together so tightly you can't slip a sheet of paper between them. No mortar, no gaps, just perfect interlocking blocks. This isn't primitive trial and error, it's engineering. But how? Some suggest lost techniques, counterweights, sonic levitation, or even heat-based stone shaping. Others propose ancient civilizations had a much deeper understanding of geometry, vibration, and gravity. And let's not forget the tools. Where are the copper chisels that shape these behemoths? Where are the quarrying marks? In many cases, they're just not there. The stones look poured or laser cut, with smooth surfaces and perfect symmetry. And here's the real twist. Some of these impossible stones are underground. At Turkey's Derinkuyu, we find an 18-level underground city carved out of solid volcanic rock, able to house 20,000 people with livestock and food storage, sophisticated air ventilation, water wells, strategic defense design. How do you even begin to explain that without modern technology? The evidence suggests we're looking at remnants, not inventions. These weren't first-time attempts. They were refinements, the perfected methods of a culture that had already mastered construction at a scale we don't yet understand. And if they went underground, maybe they were hiding from something. Beneath the surface, what's still hidden underground? If you think the surface monuments are impressive, wait till you hear what's underneath. With ground-penetrating radar, muon scans, and seismic surveys, we're now discovering that the real story might lie beneath our feet, in vast subterranean networks hidden from view for millennia. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza. In 2017, scientists using muon radiography discovered a massive hidden void, at least 30 meters long, directly above the Grand Gallery. Same slope, same size, but completely sealed. Why build something so precise and then hide it? Some believe it could be the legendary Hall of Records, a chamber filled with knowledge preserved by survivors of an ancient cataclysm. At Stonehenge, ground scans revealed a ring of massive pits, each 5 meters deep and 10 meters wide, spanning over a mile in diameter, completely underground, unseen until just recently. Malta's Hypogeum is a 3-level underground necropolis carved from solid limestone, precise, symmetrical, and acoustically perfect. And then there's Derinkuyu again, an entire city carved downward, not upward, as if its builders were escaping the sky. Why is this important? Because we now know that ancient cultures weren't just looking to the stars. They were also digging in, burying, preserving, and sealing something away. Whether it was knowledge, technology, or just themselves, we're only now beginning to find it. And if this was a civilization trying to survive a planetary disaster, it makes perfect sense. Build what lasts above, hide what matters below. Were they really just primitive, or are we just forgetting? Mainstream archaeology teaches us that all of these ancient wonders, Stonehenge, the Sphinx, the pyramids, were built by primitive societies using basic tools and clever teamwork. No writing, no wheels, no machines, just hard work and maybe a few lucky guesses. But does that explanation really hold up? Because when you look at the precision of the alignments, the astronomical knowledge, the acoustic engineering, the underwater cities, and the massive stones moved without modern tools, the primitive narrative starts to crumble. Sure, some of it can be explained with effort and ingenuity, but not all of it. Not across continents. Not with the same patterns, same materials, and same geometric logic showing up in cultures that supposedly never contacted each other. Here's what the conventional story's missing. Time. These structures weren't just random bursts of brilliance. They appear to come from a shared knowledge system, one that may have predated recorded history, only surviving through oral traditions, hidden chambers, and the stones themselves. The more discoveries we make, the more it looks like humanity experienced a massive reset, a flood, a catastrophe, a collapse so deep it nearly erased the memories of what came before. But the monuments endured. They're not just relics, they're messages, left by people who knew they were running out of time, hoping someone would find them again. And maybe that someone is us. The question now isn't if an ancient advanced civilization existed. The real question is, how much of their legacy are we still missing? If this blew your mind, you're not alone. We're only beginning to scratch the surface of what ancient humans, or whoever came before, truly knew. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Because next time, we're exploring the forbidden secrets inside the Great Pyramid.